Now it is time to start the session. From now, we have a session titled What Front-End Engineers Can Do to Make OSS Sustainable. It's a panel session. And we are panel front-end engineers. We use OSS almost daily using package software and so on. And however, many OSS softwares are left without maintenance increasingly, and in order to make OSS usage sustainable, we want to think what we can do as engineers. The first, we'll start with self-introductions. And the first, myself, I'm with the UIT meetup, and my name is Leonardo Ken Orihara. I use front-end development team, and also UIT meetup is what I operate as well. And animation development and different creative development I'm involved. Today I'm here as a moderator and look forward to work with you. And also from Line, Ueno-san, if you could introduce yourself. My name is Kohei Ueno, and I'm also front-end framework software development in Line company. And I joined Line in 2019 as a new graduate. And since then, I've been involved in the front-end development. For the last 18 months or so, I'm working with the LIF, or Line Front-End framework, and developing the JavaScript-based development. And privately from this March, and I've been involved in Node.js, and from August, I'm one of the collaborators and one of the insiders of the project. And today, as an OSS user, as well as an insider of Node.js, I'm here to have opinion exchanges with other panelists. Yoroshiku. And thank you. Next, from Yahoo Japan, we have Hamada-san. If you could introduce yourself. And my name is Hamada. I'm here as a panelist. I'm from Yahoo Japan, and I'm now with the CTO office of the company. And there is a front-end lab, and I oversee in our department the front-end development. As the earlier session talked about, web performance project I'm leading, and also trying to improve the performance of different products. And I'm interested in, personally, privately, on the video services. And as enterprises use OSS, and what are some of the perspectives, I like to bring broad perspectives to that discussion. Thank you. Thank you. And two panelists have been involved in OSS in different capacities, and also as a user as well. Now, before we start getting to the discussion about OSS, and I'd like to ask you how you started working with OSS. And first, Ueno-san, what made you start working involved in OSS? And not just OSS, but the whole variety of contributions I've made to OSS. And now I look back, I think there were three thrusts in my engagement with OSS. And the one thing was very naturally technical curiosity. I got into Node.js, how it is working inside, so I wanted to read on it, and find out what's inside. And another point is that I wanted to learn more, to understand the large-scale code base. I thought Node.js was very important, and that's OSS is a good opportunity to cultivate such skills. And one other thrust was not just the code only, but the OSS really allows us to have collaborations. So how to communicate, and English is often the common language. So that's something I can learn, I thought. And finally, and this may be the biggest reason, is that for my career, I must say, I got into this. And people, as a person within Node.js, people may not know me, but many people know about Node.js. And to those people, I can simply communicate that I'm familiar with Node.js. So I thought that will help my career path as well. So that was another motivation. And so developing your career can be a good motivation. But when the English language comes into the scene, could that be a big hurdle to yourself? Yes, as a Japanese language native, I must say there was some hurdle. But on the other hand, that could be a good challenge, and it's a good opportunity to learn English. Initially, it might be very difficult, but I thought it was good to get used to it. And it was a challenge and hurdle, but also was a positive challenge. So you can learn English. So you took advantage of the opportunity then. Okay, Hamada-san, I also want to ask you the same question. And once again, you've been engaged in OSS and as an individual or for other capacity. In my case, when I was a student, and I developed an NPM package and published that. And within the enterprise, I've been using OSS. And the fact that I published a piece of code was that the motivation was I wanted to see how people react to the library I thought was useful, which I developed. And so it was just a curiosity. And so I kind of experienced all the issues, and one of them is English communication. And I was a student, and the issue was raised, and I responded to them. But the English was a hurdle, and sometimes I wasn't sure what was trying to be it was intended. But amongst the engineers, we can exchange sample codes and so on. So it turns out that the language is not as high a hurdle as I thought. And that's what I found when I was a student. So once I got very busy, I couldn't keep up with maintaining the code. And ultimately, I hardly ever touched the code. So I'm interested in OSS even until now, I see. So both of you initially was led by your interest to get into OSS. But once you get into that, you find it increasingly difficult to keep maintaining the code. And that is an issue you've mentioned. Now, having had you talk about how you got into OSS, but doing OSS, you had original motivation, but it can lead to career as well. But publishing the code, product quality may be improved because you now put it into the public eye. So there are a lot of benefits. But even then, you cease to be able to maintain the code. It's not really sustainable over the long run. So that's the topic I want us to talk about. And there are some challenges of OSS, which we can also look at. The current state of OSS, and let's examine what is the status. And before we get into that, though, Node.js project, Ueno-san, you've been in it, and how it is being developed, and what is the current status, if you could share with us of those. Okay. And Node.js governance organization is shown, and its history is shown here. And briefly, in November of 2009, Ryan Dahl, a so-called RY for short, created Node.js. And several months later, the NPM was developed by Isaac, which NPM being essential for anything we do. And that really motivated the spread popularity of this. And initially, it started by RY, but in November 2010, there was an inflection point that we can't really, it cannot be handled single-handedly. So Joint is the new platform for developing the Node.js.
But having said that, about 3 years, I think, since then, continuing on its effort, gradually Node.js has not been updated, and that was an issue. And of course, at that time, Node.js was quite prevalent in the market. So as a user, this condition was not acceptable. So I'm sorry, I'm still working on the previous slide. Yes. So OJS. So the fork was conducted. So it's a separate storage stream of IOJS was have become to be developed. But for the users, this is not something that we should be happy about. Node.js, people were confused which one should be utilized and what would be the future of IOJS was very uncertain. So it's a very murky, so to speak of, the age. And that, of course, era had concluded in 2015 June. Node.js and I.OJS has become one, and Node.js has become to be what it used to be, and the company called Joyent was supporting us. But unfortunately, Node.js Foundation is a foundation in Japanese, a foundation, has decided to support us. So that was how it had become to be. And then several months, several years, and recently, in 2019, JS Foundation and Node.js Foundation emerged, and OpenJS Foundation was inaugurated. So again, under the foundation, Node.js development is being undertaken. So this is the history. So then, would you be kind enough to take us through this slide as well? Yes, this is the current governance for Node.js. So OpenJS Foundation is supporting us, as you can see at the bottom. And then on top of that, there are three major roles or titles, so to speak of. And on the far left, least privilege is triage. So anyone, if you raise your hand, you can be a triager, but the issue triage are being done by this group of people. And the center is, I myself belong to the center pillar, Node.js. In other words, the member of the community having the rights and privilege. So Node.js, the main branch, the permission to influence the main branch is those people in the center. And far right, technical steering committee, those people in the collaborators. About 10 people or so has been collected or selected, and those people, ultimately, the Node.js development, they have the voting for the way forward. So between collaborators, so on the issues, and there are sometimes no solutions. The parallel discussions are being held without conclusion, and in those time, TSC have a meeting, and ultimate, of course, decision will be made by the TSC team. So looking at it now, Node.js is looks quite stable, but over the years, reflecting on history, it's a project that was started by one individual. It did not work out, and it was belonging to an enterprise or entity. But having said that, it did not work out well. So that is the reason why it was forked into different sort of branches. And once again, looking at it, Node.js also is confronting the similar issue that OSS is confronting today. So that's my feeling. I see. So the OS that's been released by one individual, and the Node.js, it's quite a structure of an organization, but there may be reason why it has survived over the years as OS. So I was wondering what will happen at the time when it branched out, but yes, at that time I was not an engineer. Oh, I see. So it didn't really ring a bell for me. But as a user, the fact that it's forked, if it's a forking and evolution that is being taken by branches, it sounds well. But I think there are some different user communities. Yes, from the enterprise perspective, which direction do we need to choose at this inflection point was something that we really had difficulties in making a decision. So the enterprise is also seeking for a continuous product development, in other words, stability. So which is more stable going forward? This is some of the concern that we have had at that point in time. Well, thank you for that. So Node.js, we now have come to understand the status quo and the original organization, how it evolved. But one more document which I would like to share with you today is here. We have made some selections. So this is not maintenance. This is a support by the enterprise, by the foundation, that is. This is OSS supported by the foundation, and this is the part of the list. And Node.js, there are foundation deeply involved, but Next.js, in this case, mainly is a Vercel Inc. that has developed. It's led the development. And the capital is a venture capital funding that they have received. And also Apollo, GraphQ, and Hasra and Prisma, each respectively has a on-pay options, or they are monetizing by enterprise, but both the venture capital are funding these initiatives. So the fact that it's remain without being maintenance, there are a lot of reasons why, and we'd like to deep dive into that. But I think one of them is funding. So to generate profit in a single entity, I think is very difficult to do from what we have seen the situation. So with that being said, the maintenance, to conduct maintenance, you need human resources and capital resources as well. So in terms of the fact that it's remained without being maintained, what would happen? If you have any example, I would like to learn that from you. Yes, for instance, in terms of your own experiences. So, Ueno-san, can I start off with you? So, OSS remain without being maintained. So, in your baby product development experiences, or if you have any heard of any case study, I would like to hear that from you. Can I share my own experience? Yes, of course. So, Node.js, I have been contributing quite proactively in March, and I've been selected as a collaborator this August. And since March to August and August to now, when you make the comparison about the passion, enthusiasm, how much it's with me. Frankly speaking, before being a collaborator, the passion to Node.js and the current enthusiasm is lower because Node.js, the maintenance, I have not been able to put my effort in the maintenance of Node.js now. Oh, why is that? Why is that you have been demotivated? So Node.js, to the fact that you can continuously contribute, the motivation came from the fact that you want to be a collaborator. So that was really a big issue for me. Of course, there are technical interests, and of course, I wanted to know about the inside of it, but that was the largest reason. And now I've become a collaborator now, and the motivation is kind of gone. And I'm doing it on my private time, so therefore it's very difficult to do the balance of my work and my personal life. So that is the reason why I have not put effort in maintaining them. So to become a collaborator, at least your career, or maybe it give you a title, it's a lot of benefit. So in terms of the fact that you're doing as part of your work and not, I think it's exploiting in a way of your passion. Yes, it's very hard to keep the passion ongoing. I see. So Node.js become collaborator now, and I know you're doing hard, but still the passion does not really continue on. That I think is the message. So anything from you, Hamada-san? Well, as I've said, my small NPM package is one thing, but as Ueno-san mentioned, the motivation, your own motivation, or spending your private time to dedicate this area. Since I am now a member of an enterprise, I feel that quite strongly. At the fringe of time, when there was an issue, I may be very happy, but now with the issue, I have an obligation or maybe a pressure or stress. It's very true. Gradually, I'm feeling a lot of stress with the issue being provided. And from the enterprise perspective, the maintainability, the continuation of maintainability, the stability of that, is what enterprises are expecting. So the OSS that you have been utilized is left without being maintained, then enterprise-wise, this is going to be a big problem. So that was something that I have experienced over the years. So Axios is one example. And for instance, Axios is for the front-end engineer. It's a request library. Everyone utilizes, but for a long duration of time, it has remained being unupdated, not updated. So, for instance, the vulnerabilities and bugs, it's left as it is. And when we have this problem inside the company, we have come to understand that this is a problem, this is a bottleneck at the time of release.
And from our company too, my company too, we had raised the issues and tried to confirm whether the project is still alive or not. And one point, one of the collaborators took over the release right, and therefore that the maintenance regained. And so this kind of a very well-known OSS had its maintenance stopped, and that is possible for any OSS. And Axios, I thought, is used so frequently, and if there is a problem, that could impact so many products in a very significant way. And you mentioned Axios, and maybe we should look at this page. And there are OSS which experienced the problems, and we've really listed those OSS. Axios is listed. And regarding Axios, can I ask you what specific problems were experienced? And it just the update did not run anymore, and public inquiries just got accumulated, and we tried to take any action. And CI is not functioning anymore. So, and then that situation lasted long, and in the issues queue, our engineer asked publicly, is this project still alive or not? And then somebody said, just give us a few time. And then it came back with the more updates for large library like Axios. It was still really dependent on the individual efforts. Thank you. And CI was not functioning anymore, but the forum was still alive, and then there was a response. So for users, it can be scary, and you want that to be fixed quickly, and especially for enterprises. And whether you can communicate that is really up to the whole community as well. And in this list, what others? For example, Lerna is a JavaScript package module. It also experienced a problem. Ueno-san, if you could explain what happened. And my company's product, we have a mono repo, and we've been using Lerna. And in 2020 August, this project, we asked, there was an issue raised asking whether this project is alive or not, and many people were discussing this. And yesterday, I just went back and quoted that, and it was apologies, I'm extremely burnt out, was the comment. You can't really do anything when there is such, and it turned out we have somebody who was willing to pay. It's not the issue. Money is not the issue. And even if I got the money, I can't really do any more work. And please find a new contributor. And that was the response. And now, most recently, another company took over. And in fact, it was merged to another project. And so it is now under a well-maintained stewardship. And listening to what you explained, Axios and Lerna enterprises want to see that worked on quickly. Otherwise, company enterprises may need to move on to another project. And this may be a tough line, but the whole line. And obviously, we look at, in case of line, whether we can use the library, the star rating, and the quotes, and really make a rough judgment. And for enterprises to choose library or use libraries, what should we do is the next question. As Ueno-san, you also work at a line. And when you choose open source, what would be the criteria for selecting one? And I think there are many aspects, as you mentioned, looking at the stars and also final commit. If it's 3 years ago, we won't choose it. And also, I guess that's the most important point we look at, and whether there's an active maintainer. And also, if we have a bug correction, would that be reviewed as well? And if there is a maintainer, you can send an issue or you can help. And if you can have contact, you can have a contact with the maintenance person, then discussion gets started, then we can work on it. And active OSS, if there is a similar OSS, but it's more activity, we'll choose that. How about Yahoo Japan's case? In case of Yahoo Japan, there are different services, large and small, and we choose a different OSS. And what is common is long-lasting and stable, and that's we are very take a very close eye on that aspect. For example, if the maintenance stops all of a sudden, or the vulnerability is left as is, and that will have an impact on our users. So continuing maintenance is something we watch very closely, look at closely. And in addition, amongst the different OSSs, there are large projects and small code. For small code, and you can often replace them. But once it is a large piece, we have a large dependence on that, and then we will be more strict in examining which to choose. And another point, if I may ask, is the licensing issue. For example, in case of Yahoo Japan, licensing is something we take a very close look at. NPM is really dependent on many layers of dependence, and for each layer, that the licensing fee and the possible litigation risk and so on, and so we examine those source code very closely. So if you're developing a product, and that's something you have to do, I guess. But for OSS developer, whether you can really meet that demand is another thing, and also remain sustainable. These may be keywords. And for users, you mentioned that this is what you look at, and for developers, motivation. And there was a statement we talked about, even if there's money, we don't have resources, human resources, skill resources. And I wonder whether there's anything we can do about that. And the title call is things we can do to make OSS sustainable. What can we do is the next topic. For example, let's say insiders, so-called OSS, and working at Node.js. And to make OSS sustainable, do you have any idea what we can do? And as I said earlier, we saw earlier in the earlier slide, And why OSS ceased to be maintained is that it's really people who maintain those codes and people who can raise issues, but we don't have people who can fix the issue. Now, what we can do to that, and from OSS side, is just to find identified collaborators or contributors who are interested, and the people are interested in the code, and attract them and keep them, and if possible, turn him or her into a collaborator to work as a team, and that may be just one approach, one thing we can do. So attract them and get them in to a company, maybe hire the person, or do something to have the person as a collaborator.
Well, Node.js, we have very specific, of course, strategies or methodologies that have been established. So documentation, first of all. Well, when we talk about documentation, it's not software document. It's a document to contribute, in other words. So very primitive, how the clone, the repository, and you migrate them and build them from those areas. Everything is need to be documented. So in other words, how you write a request or how you raise an issue, everything is documented. So if you're interested in wanting to contribute, those people that is going to be guiding those people, candidate contributors, so they will not get lost. So that is the documentation. So good first issue is going to be kept or stored. I see. So if you have a strong follow-up, those people who have kind of an interest, and to sustain that level of interest, it seems as though you're doing away with some of the hurdles. So, but it's a challenge. So, Node document. I once had committed to the Node document, and procedures and methodologies were very, very well written. So I was able to do that very smoothly. Yes. Still now, the documentation is still being revised. If there are some changes or feedback, still it's been updated. So Node.js is putting a lot of effort in this documentation. And I think that's wonderful. I see. So if you have those practices, you can really draw people in, and I think that's really effective. But let's say Node.js is now a big OSS, but small OSS. What can they do? What should be done? So, for instance, let's say raising issue, it's a kind of now is a threat. It's difficult to spend time in dealing with the issue. But Hamada-san, your personal OSS, in pursuing your personal OSS, in terms of the sustainability, is there anything that you can do or something that is in your mind? Well, I said that I always look at things from the member of the employee. So it's an OSS that I tend to select which have a longevity and stability. But that means from the OSS developer, it's a lot of pressure to be a developer. A lot of pressure, I think, on the part of the developer. So therefore, what the condition of where we are forced to take that stance we need to avoid. So the enterprise just riding on the wave and empty-handed, I think is not the right approach. We need to avoid that situation from happening. So let's say enterprise is utilizing this OSS and there is a problem, let's say. So like a workaround to fix them within the application is the common thing to be done. But at that time, if you're using OSS, it's a issue or had to be submitted from the company perspective as well. So you need to make sure that there's a commitment, and you need to establish the enterprise or maybe support that initiative within the enterprise to commit to OSS. So utilizing OSS. Let's say this may be difficult to select them in your company. You're not just going to truncate them, but maybe with a PR or maybe you think about how you'll be able to contribute to the OSS. And then that is going to be beneficial for the OSS as well. So it's both ways. So support. When we talk about support, there's another slide which we have prepared for the session. LINE and Yahoo Japan, respectively, there are two separate schemes to support OSS, I heard. So support program. So as you can see, if I can continue, Hamada-san, well, Yahoo Japan is supporting the OSS. I heard there is a special program. Can I ask you about this program? Yes, at Yahoo Japan, largely there are three approach of where we are supporting the OSS. So OSS that's being utilized in service, and if we can find the bug or additional features, to the product, we make our contribution. So that's something that we do as a company. And the sponsored, well, I think Line is doing something very similar. It's a funding by means of monetary means. And the other characteristics, which I have written here on the slide, is OSS developer certification scheme is available. So Yahoo Japan strategically is the OSS that we selected as Yahoo Japan. We are going to support people who are committing them. It's a program to support them. If you are certified, then you will be able to get 1 million yen per year of grants or budget. So then you can make more contribution. So Yahoo Japan have this scheme already. That's wonderful. To the contributors, you are going to fund them. And it's an official funding from the company, and the company has acknowledged that you can spend your working hours to contribute to the OSS. It's very legitimate. So it's not a volunteer. So as of now, many people are working as part of the volunteer. So Yahoo and Line, those companies that have a stamina, so to speak, are supporting the creators. And that I think is a wonderful, initiative undertaken by Yahoo Japan and Line. So those people who want to contribute, I think it's a very attractive program, and it also motivate them, and it provide them incentive as well. So you talked about exploiting people and time and money, but 1 million yen for the contributors, I think there's so much that can be done. So it's quite interesting. So Line, is it within Line? So maybe I want to have Ueno-san explain about your Line program. Yes, OSS support program from Line. Yes. So there are three you can see on the slide. First of all, OSS is specializing and dedicating to OSS. We have a department dedicated to OSS. So there, I have experience too. But the software that you created in your job to release them as OSS, the form and the repository creation, the checking, and all that, those work are being done by this department. And conference meetup sponsoring. Continuously, a company is sponsoring conferences and meetup. And front end dedicated front end, of course, there are monetary contribution, financial contribution, it says. So we do that. Specifically, the money amount is the Citia, Pritia, recently, it's only once, but $3,000 have been donated. And the other three, continuously, per month basis, we have financial support. I see. The numbers are quite large. It's surprising. But in terms of financial support, I think it's a very beneficial, amount. Frankly speaking, for the company, it's not a big money thing for the company. I see. So I think it's a very, very important initiative for the company to undertake. Therefore, yes, thank you. So this is last but not least. Thank you for what you have told us. And maybe as an individual, maybe as a company, there's so much that can do to achieve sustainability. Let's say reporting the bug by utilizing them. It's not maybe a direct support, but then it revitalizes activity. So it's good that you submit your bug, the identify bug. And if the company have, of course, the luxury to fund or to offer financial support, I think that's also very meaningful. And to conclude, very simple summaries. So in terms of Ueno-san from OSS, as an individual, and Hamano-san, if you can talk about what we can do to make the OSS sustainable from the company perspective. Can you summarize this? So can I start off with you, Ueno-san? So far, some of the issues that we confront has been shared with this panel. But one thing that could be said, the existence of OSS should not be taken for granted. So that is very important. So being an engineer, when I was a freshman, Node.js, it's like a magic wand. And I thought it's granted, I can utilize them. But this OSS is created by someone. And there are developers, they give up it is going to be stagnant. So to that, OSS, not just to be a user, of course, using is important, but not just to be a user, to be passive. As a company, it's a financial contribution, it's an individual reporting on the issues, and OSS and the users need to live in symbiosis or coexist. So that I think is going to be a very important aspect moving forward. And on top of that, your career to benefit your own career, or maybe through contributing them you get a compensation, there are some side benefit. So if you're interested on OSS, please peek in what's happening, and please contribute to fix the bug, and please issue raise an issue. So I know time is running out. So again, in terms of the discussion, if I can summarize, as a company, use them and support them, and then revitalize them. So the OSS is going to be going through the positive loop. So that I think is very promising. So I'm sorry where's the end. It was a little sort of a hustle, but we'd like to conclude. So OSS, in terms of where we are today and some of the issue that we face, and we as an engineer, what we can do, I think it's well sorted out. So those people who have not touched OSS, have not experienced them, this is going to be a very viable first step that they can take. So thank you very much. Since it is time for the session, the OSS, we have concluded the session for this special panel. So Uedo-san, Hamada-san, thank you very much. And all of the viewers, that concludes what front-end engineer can do to make OSS sustainable. So that concludes this panel. Thank you very much.